You are listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
All right, so I have some news. It shouldn't be quite as monumental as I'm making it sound, but I have deactivated my Twitter account.
What?
See, I think it's great news.
Wow.
Well, you've been on the personal journey with me throughout these many years, and it just I'm not really good with moderation. I'm not very good at just saying, oh, I'll just let it sit there and I'll look at it occasionally. That didn't really work for me. I was sort of looking at it too much, and so I haven't had it now for a week. And, I described it as kind of having a phantom limb, whereas I keep kind of thinking about it and what's it doing and what's everyone saying. And I want to scratch it and it's not there anymore. So it's an interesting feeling. It's like, I think it used to say, because it's not there anymore, that I've been on since 2009. Mm-hmm. So I think I gave it a fair shot.
You tried weekends off for a while. I remember that journey, and I don't think that stuck as long as you wanted. It
didn't. And then I would work out modifications like, well, unless there's some major event.
Exactly. Yeah, you're always giving yourself a just in case.
So was there like a particular?
Was there an inciting incident?
Yeah, that made you decide to do it now.
Yeah, just all of a sudden I was just thinking about how I've had some personal mental health struggles, and I don't mind saying that out loud. I think it's healthy for everyone too, if you want to. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was contributing anything, not a thing, to me feeling better. And so getting rid of it has definitely made me feel like I've done something that is positive for me. And
that's good.
Yeah. So I know it shouldn't be. I know it's a brave move if you're in media to say that you will take yourself out of one of the major communication points that we have. But I think also you have to prioritize your own feelings and thoughts and abilities to what is needed in the, worldosphere, if that makes any sense.
So, what are you doing with all your free time now that you don't have Twitter?
That is, and I also deactivated my Instagram account.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I know your Facebook's been gone for years.
Yes,
so.
Yes.
Okay.
And also TikTok too.
Are you also selling your house and retreating to the woods? I just need to know. I need to know what's coming next.
What more can I think I just had to, I am a very lucky person in that I have a lot of wonderful friends and family that I can communicate with. So it's not like I can't communicate with people.
Yeah.
It's just only now I can communicate only with people I know. And that's what seemed like the healthiest decision to make.
I think it's great. I'm so glad that's the right thing. If that's the right thing for you, that's great. So happy for you.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to just ask this question.
Yeah.
What are you doing with all this time on your hands now that you're not on social media at all?
Right. It has freed up a lot of time for reading.
I was going to say, are you going to make your 50 book challenge pretty easy
I am
now?
going to make my 50 book challenge for sure.
Great.
I was talking to a friend at a election party, because that's what people do who are nerdy like us. And, she said, I said, I just found that I was spending too much time there. And she had to talk to her therapist because she spent 2 hours on TikTok once.
Once?
Yeah. So there may have been other times.
Wow.
I think that's probably not that significant compared to, I would be curious about what the average is of TikTok users and how long they spend on TikTok.
Well, they give you a warning. I think we've had that discussion before. They will, if you have been on it for a certain length of time. I've never, fortunately, had that warning. But I know all of a sudden it'll come on and tell you should go out for a walk.
Interesting.
So can you now change your phone for like one of those flip up phones?
Wow. Hey, wow. I'm just going to actually get just a regular phone and not have just a phone.
Like a rotary?
Like a rotary in my house, and I will phone people when I need to communicate with them. I'll just, I won't even text anymore. No, I'm still texting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long this will last.
Yeah.
You know, it might, they let you deactivate your account for a year, and then on Twitter it does. And then you can bring it all back if you want to. You know,
but so how do you feel? Like, I remember a few episodes ago you were talking about having, you know, problems sleeping sometimes and stuff like that. Like, has that helped at all?
Yeah, I think it's still pretty new, but I do, as a person who felt very compelled to go there all the time and get involved in stupid conversations about things, like even learning the news of one of the Sex and the City cast members died this year from the original Stanford.
Yeah, Willie Garson.
Yeah, Willie Garson. And I remember thinking, wow, ordinarily I would just go to Twitter to see what people are saying about that, and then I realized I didn't care. I didn't need to care what other people thought. I mean, I knew the news. I can still look at news. I can still use my phone to look at actual news sites.
Pick up a newspaper somewhere.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, why don't I just get some faxes too? Is that what you're going to say next? I'll give you my fax number and you can send me some memos. It's not that I don't know the world is out there. I'm just choosing not to participate in parts of it that have, I think, not been super healthy for me.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are obviously, you two are extremely good at doing things in moderation and not feeling that you're compelled to go to these places just to drag yourself down into a sea of nothingness, you know. Like I liken it to the fact that I know what the news event is. I just don't know what other people are thinking about it.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, like, I might look at Twitter, but I don't think I engage nearly at the same level that you were engaging. And I made that decision for myself, for sure, just to, like, not get, like, too swept up in it. I just when I need to write, I'm often writing to deadline, and I literally can't do anything else because otherwise it just takes my focus away. And when I get into, like, a good writing groove, I mean, that's its own sort of, like, absence of moderation. You know, I can sit down for, like, anywhere from, like, 5 to 15 hours, you know, and just really focus and get in on it. So it's, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been a super heavy social media user, but I mean, I do tend to, like, look at it more than I actually tweet or Instagram myself. But yeah, so I have found myself thinking, like, trying to limit how much I look at my phone, and I don't always carry my phone with me. And
yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I've tried to do that too, but I tend to I like it to count my steps, so I use it for that. I try to get my 10,000 steps in every day. But see, I don't need to know that, really.
I mean, you can get a pedometer. It's like,
yeah.
You know.
This thing, it's amazing. Like, it's so small. Look at this thing. No one can see me, but I'm just holding up my phone. How can this thing cause so much doom and gloom and frustration? Just this little tiny thing, you know?
Well, I think it, like, it, you know, I hate to say it because the movie is so terrible. But do you remember that it came out, like, last year, and it was about, like, maybe it wasn't called The Social Network, but it was, like, it was an incredibly stupid movie about all of these people who had designed Facebook and everything else to be as addictive as possible.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
Like, do you remember that movie?
Yeah, it was a documentary, right?
Well, it was sort of. It was like documentary with like fictionalized elements in.
Yeah,
because, like,
that was on. It was on
Vincent
Netflix.
Kartheiser.
Yeah,
Vincent Kartheiser plays like, I don't know, addiction in like its myriad. Anyway, it's honestly like quite a ridiculous film, but I appreciated the designers who were talking about, preying on impulse control and an absence of impulse control in sort of and sort of comparing it to people who, might be prone to like gambling addictions and things like that, like just always being able to, you never know kind of like what treat is waiting down the road. And
Yes.
like, I think that there's like a lot, there is absolutely a lot to be said for sort of recognizing in yourself that that's not a very healthy dynamic for you.
No, and I don't think I actually have a very addictive personality in those sorts of ways, but I do think that definitely when I first started I didn't really know that I was looking for that kind of gratification. I didn't know that would become something that would like, I didn't know I had a hole. Did I have a hole in my life or something that felt that it needed outside people to come and give me verification? Maybe I did.
I think all of us do. I mean, it preys
Mhm.
upon also our idea of relevance, right? And like, particularly
Yes.
with people who are working in the media, you're always sort of like up against so many different seeming ceilings of relevance. Like, are you going to age out of being relevant, or are you ever going to age into being relevant? Or
Mhm.
if you're like a woman, is anyone really ever going to listen to you? And are you ever going to be able to have the same shots as somebody else? Or if you're a person of color, are you ever going to get any opportunities from like white supremacy? Like, there's just, I think, like, particularly for media folks, that relevancy equation is so, if you sort of look at it too much as like a source of validation, then it will destroy you a little bit.
Yeah, and I believe I was getting to that point. So I have a feeling that me not being destroyed is probably not only healthy for me, but much nicer for the people I love. So.
And you know what?
And I include
Lindy
both
West
of you in
never
there.
looked
So.
back. Oh,
Yeah,
thanks,
no,
hun. We love you.
well, I
but
do.
yeah, Lindy West never looked back. So I believe it's a good choice for you too.
Yeah. Well, that's my bombshell. Shouldn't be such a big deal, but I know it is. I know, and now apparently I'm going to be churning my own milk and making soup and
honestly,
soap
like,
and.
Now you're making me want to quit social media.
Look at that. Your relevance will still be felt lots of places. You just
Still
might
an
not know
influencer.
about it immediately. But you know what? Speaking of weirdos, we've got quite a wonderful assortment of
Oh yes.
weirdos in the movie that we're going to talk about tonight. And this movie largely predated social media. Can you imagine what social media would have done in this movie?
I thought a lot about the fact that there were no cell phones in this movie and how that would have made this movie completely different. Completely different.
Totally. Yeah.
It's quite remarkable.
Absolutely.
And
Well.
we haven't even said what it is.
Nope. Can't wait. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And we're talking about Fargo.
Oh boy. Hey, we do a lot of new content, but it is really fun to revisit a gem like this one. 25 years, hey? 25 years.
I haven't watched it in such a long time. I can't even remember when I last watched this movie.
Yeah, it's been I didn't see it right away when it first came out because it came out I was in grade 11 the year it came out. And so I don't really think like this was necessarily the kind of movie that I was like as into in grade 11, even though absolutely I would have like feigned being into it, but like I never saw it in the theater. But like I think I saw it for the first time maybe in my 20s, and then watching it now, it's been at least 15 years since I last watched it.
I feel like I've watched it many, many times. Rewatching it, there were like certain fill scenes that I didn't quite recall, but I feel like I've watched it so many times, or I've just seen YouTube clips of certain parts of it or something. So it felt extremely not new at all rewatching it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited that we're doing it though.
Oh, I am too.
I am happy to read the background.
Sure.
Fargo is a 1996 black comedy crime film written, produced, and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. Filmed in the United States during the end of 1995, Fargo premiered at the 96 Cannes Film Festival, where Joel Coen won the festival's Prix de la Mise en Scène Best Director Award, and the film was nominated for the Palme d'Or. The film was both a commercial and critical success, earning particular acclaim for the Coen's direction and script, and the performances of McDormand, Macy, and Buscemi. That's Frances McDormand, William H. Macy, and Steve Buscemi. Fargo received 7 Oscar nominations at the 69th Academy Awards. 69th, good Lord. Anyway, all of this is making me feel differently aged, including Best Picture and Best Director, winning 2 awards, Best Actress for Frances McDormand and Best Original Screenplay for the Coens.
And I'll take on the synopsis then. Car sales manager Jerry Lundegaard. See, even that name there, Jerry Lundegaard. It's almost like a verb for just banal. William H. Macy is
or bumbling.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Anyway,
is up to his eyeballs with money troubles, bad deals, and fraud, leaving him in an unmanageable debt with the very real prospect of a prison sentence on the horizon. Well, that's boy, what's to come for you, Jerry Lundegaard? In order to settle what is owed and buy himself a little comfort in one fell swoop, Jerry hires a pair of hitmen, Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare, to kidnap his own wife, played by Kristen Rudden, with the understanding that they will split the ransom money put up by his wealthy father-in-law, Harvey Presnell. But the plan begins to fall apart at the seams after the kidnapping results in the killing of witnesses, and Police Chief Marge Gunderson, played by Frances McDormand, begins her investigation. And that is from Sam Sewell Peterson of Film Magazine.
So much happens in this movie.
It's a lot.
It's so much.
It is a lot. It is a strange film in that it has the tone of this movie is at once really flat and dull. These are just very extraordinarily ordinary people, yet it has the most shocking violence. It has some of the sweetest scenes that you'll ever see between a married couple. It has the soundtrack to this, the grandiosity of these scenes, but yet the kind of very small townness of it. It really seems to pack almost, I mean, in a weird way to me, almost everything you want in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was in university in the mid-90s, and so it was like that sweet spot for just becoming obsessed with the Coen brothers and their movies. And I just remember just being so obsessed with this movie when it came out. And then it's interesting because over the years, I probably haven't been as following the Coen brothers career. I find that, like after No Country for Old Men, I found that movie so hard to watch because of the violence in it. It just kind of I kind of backed off watching Coen brothers movies a little bit after that. But yeah, their first, their sort of early movies, like Barton Fink, Hudsucker Proxy, Blood Simple. I was really into those movies when I was a university student.
Yeah, well, that and they have such a varied career of movies. I mean, I remember seeing Raising Arizona and just really loving that. And of course, you can't find any men, I think, on the planet who don't quote The Big Lebowski an awful lot. And that is a wonderful movie. It really, really is a tremendously great movie. So I've always, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is just the sweetest movie as well. It they really have an amazing ability to just be yep, this is what we're into right now. And it probably won't seem like anything else we've been into before.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched as much Coen Brothers perhaps as other people. I've definitely watched a lot. I'm just looking at their discography or their filmography right now, and I actually, it's weird because even though I love Javier Bardem, I ultimately decided that No Country for Old Men seemed too violent, and I never watched it. even though I know
good
it's
for you, because it's very disturbing.
Yeah, like
and you would never forget it if you ever watched it.
That's the thing. Like I watched True Grit. I watched A Serious Man. Obviously, I watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I had that soundtrack and I loved it. And like even The Lady Killers I watched. Intolerable Cruelty, which is terrible.
I even watched that this summer for some reason.
Did you? How was it? Did it hold up?
It's odd.
Okay. Like I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like it's so, this movie, like I think about like why it stands out so much in a discography that is so like punctuated with these really significant highs and like not terrible lows. Like there's nothing like, at no point I don't think has anyone said, why are they letting these two people make movies anymore? Like no. So far, like I haven't heard that anyone has really said that. But I just find it really, fascinating, like how Fargo seems to, like it's really the one that we all can go back to over and over again. Mm-hmm. And it feels like it, frankly, I think a lot of it is like Marge Gunderson, like, or Marge.
Oh. Yeah, I was gonna
like
say
Marge
that.
Gunderson is like, she's,
I think it's Frances McDormand's performance, right?
Yeah.
Like it's now, you know, because I have seen Fargo a number of times, but it's been a while since I've seen it. But when I was rewatching it, I could really like kind of focus on the nuances of her performance and just knowing what, you know, how she kind of went on to become one of the most acclaimed actors of her generation. And just like you see her just like creating this character that is so like unique and distinct and just like kind of carries this whole movie, even though she doesn't come into the movie until like I think 22 minutes into the film.
Yeah, I noticed that for the first time too. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, but like just her expression, the way she just like does this accent, and yeah, the creation of this character, it just like it just totally blows you away, and you're just like, yeah, she's amazing.
It's just like they went out of their way to write the script, and Frances McDormand created this character that was everything opposite of, I mean, one of the notes you have here on our background is about the toxic masculinity. And she's such a great counter to it, but not in an oppressive way, not in a showy way. There couldn't be anything less showy about this woman. I mean, right down to that hairstyle that she wears. And then her maternity police uniform.
Oh my God,
because
the maternity
she's
uniform
pregnant throughout this whole movie.
When she stands up the first time and you see fully how they have created, like she's not allowed to still wear a normal top. It has to be this like flared out thing over her pregnant stomach. Oh my God. It's so 90s and so perfect. And I loved it so much.
And then at the same time, I was just wanting to say, I did feel in a movie that is really very male, I felt very bad. Every time I watch the movie, I feel more and more bad about Jean. Poor Jean.
Yes.
You know?
So that becomes like, well, that was one of the things that I found the hardest about, because I remember like I think it's been like 15 years. And I think our conversations in general have like progressed so significantly about sort of like gender-based violence, and like I'm sure not everyone watching it found it funny the first time, but like I remember it feeling like it was supposed to be, it hit much funnier the very first time I watched it, like that we're supposed to be finding poor Jean running around with a bag over her head comical in the snow, and like that we're supposed to find the violence that she encounters somehow funnier because like we're sort of divorced from her humanity because we can't see her face. And like I just found it like much sadder and bleaker, and like I found the men much more awful, and it's that toxic masculinity thing. And now that we have like I think a bit more language to really sort of label things and name things as they are, and we have less tolerance for the kind of like violent cruelty and just like, I don't know, like just like the weakness of character in a lot of these dudes. It's especially when contrasted with like sort of, you know, just like nice, like normal men who are
like apparently all the citizenry of Brainerd, just like all of them.
Well, but like, I mean, you know, Margie's husband gets to be a normal guy, and the person that she who is her partner-in-law, like, even though like she's smarter than him, but like that's fine. Like he still seems to be like a normal.
He's okay
person.
with that.
Like,
he completely defers to that. He knows
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was a bleaker film than I remember, but it also allowed for that Frances McDormand performance to like stand out so much bigger. And I think it's really interesting that none of us remember that she doesn't enter the film until like
I know
20 to 30 minutes, because she seems like such a huge part of it the whole time. Like she takes over, and I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, and I think sort of like the idea that she created this like hyper competent worker, this woman who is so good at her job. That didn't fully register until I watched it this time around too. It's just noticing that, like, obviously the first time you watch it, you realize that she solves the crime. Like she's obviously really smart and good at her job. But this time when I watched it, I was thinking about how like she's good to her coworkers. She's like a supportive, you know, she's good to the people that she's interviewing. She interviews people with a lot of, you know, care and respect.
Yep.
And yeah, she's a good, you know, supervisor. But yeah, she's just like an all around, very extremely competent woman doing her job.
And that's it, doing her job. When she shows up at the end of the movie, when, you know, she sees the car at that lake house, and she just grabs her gun and goes out there. Like, you know, she just like, I got to get this done. This is my job. My job is to bring the bad guy in. And she just goes right in.
Yeah. And like, she doesn't, I guess because so often we're shown almost that like pregnancy is a hindrance, or it's as if literally every person in the world hasn't come into this world by being carried by someone who is pregnant.
Good point. Yes.
As if it like sets you aside from society, and you are unable to do anything else except, you know, grow a human the whole time. Which, I mean, you know, would that our world was set up like that. That would be cool. But like, just it doesn't like sideline her. It doesn't it's just not like, it's not treated as
it's
like
very
a
rarely
failure.
referred to.
Yeah,
except
like
when she has some morning sickness, really.
Yeah. It's like a nothing. And honestly, would I love just a show that's just following Marge along as she is the true detective, and it's just her eating at different foods and researching different restaurants and interviewing people and watching her face as she like realizes things along the way. That would be a great show. I would love that.
Well, you know, it's the Radisson, and you can't go wrong with a Radisson.
But,
there are so many amazing lines in this movie.
Yeah, and I was reading this article by Wendy Ide in the Financial Times. She wrote an article called "Why Fargo is the Mother of All Pregnancy Movies," and is just talking about how, like, you know, this movie was 25 years ago and depicted pregnancy in in a way where it wasn't like part of the storyline. This woman just happened to be pregnant, and she was a character in the movie. But for some reason, ever since then, that hasn't really become a normal thing in movies, even though women walk around pregnant every day, just going about their day.
Yeah.
There's like, Hollywood still seems to have a real problem with being able to write characters that are pregnant women where the pregnancy is not the focus of their story.
They're also, the other thing I really loved about this movie, and I noticed it more rewatching it, was the idea that they really took away from that over the top male hero solving the crime and fixing everything. She just goes in as if she's got like a house to organize or a bake, whatever, like some sort of like, this is just part of my job. I just go in there. There's no big guns blaring. There's no, it just showed a person solving a crime in the best way she knew how, which is asking questions and going out and interviewing people, piecing things together. So it didn't have that male over the top, gun chase through the woods. It was just very simple. She was like, I've taken, I know how to shoot. I know how to shoot this guy in the leg. I'll just take him down and I'll put him in the back of my car. Like it just had a very tidiness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so interesting to see a female character is the person who is like kind of the cool, dispassionate sort of eye of the law in this movie. And the male characters are the ones who are like, hysterical and doing all these, making all these mistakes and running rampant everywhere and murdering people. And, so like they're responsible for the chaos in the movie. And while she's the rational character.
And the other thing I really noticed too in this movie, I hadn't really thought about very much, but when, obviously Jerry could care less about anyone except himself, but the way, here has his wife kidnapped and really had not thought about little Scotty. And we just seen
about his kid at all.
His kid, and we just saw the boy being really dismissive of his mom and really angry that he couldn't go out for hockey. And then the next thing you see is when he finds out his mom has been kidnapped, he's sitting with her shirt, just crying and crying. And I thought that was like, there's no accidental scenes, but to see this young, vulnerable male that had been treating his mother so poorly, and then finally, kind of recognizing what he had lost and what he had done. And I thought that was a very interesting scene that I hadn't really spent as much time on.
Well, and I think that actually fits into like a lot of the different scenes that exist where, like, you sort of laid this out, AG, in your outline, is just like to go from like the toxic masculinity and the hierarchy, and not just that, but like the hierarchy of violence, like the humiliation. You quoted Sarah Marshall of You're Wrong About podcast wrote this article for Bitch magazine called How Fargo Captures the Sad Realities of Toxic Masculinity, and I'm not gonna like read it all, but she says, much of Fargo is a chain reaction of male humiliation and violence. Jerry's father humiliates him, strengthens his own suspicions that he's not a real man, so Jerry convinces himself that his only recourse is to put his wife through hell. Carl is humiliated. Carl insults Grimsrud, so Grimsrud puts Carl through a wood chipper. And we also see how this sort of plays out, I think actually sort of in relationship to the scene with the son, Scott, and then also Mike Yanagita. Because, like, these are all very specific, specific sort of, like, portrayals of, I think, a spectrum of masculinity and how it gets sort of polluted and, and subverted and how it can go so wildly wrong. Like, because, Scott has that thing where he knows he can take his mom for granted from the time he's like 13. And I assume that that's a dynamic he has witnessed in lots of places. I mean, even actually to the extent of like the sex workers who are just like these like, nice sort of like college kids who are just like, that's like one of their only forms of sort of work, it seems, in this small town, which makes a lot of sense. And they're so matter of fact about it. And like, they're talking about, these like men who pay them and just they're not even like really people. They're just clients, which makes a lot of sense. But all she can say is that one of the guys is funny looking. And that comes up again and again too, right? Like,
and he wasn't circumcised.
Excuse me. Yes, you're right. And then like, and honestly, I could spend a lot of time talking about Mike Yanagita's, like, I feel like based on what we have seen of Coen brother films and their whiteness and the lack of nuance they have around race. That there are a few different things on multiple levels that are happening with this character. And I think that it's just like such a fascinating, strange moment in the movie.
Well, I think we should talk about it because I wasn't aware until I started reading sort of like more recent discourse about this movie that there is a huge discussion around like Mike Yanagita and why he's in the story and like what purpose he served and why there was that scene in there at all. And people have different takes on it.
Yeah, my take always was that it was her sort of introduction that people can just lie. And that she obviously knows that as a police officer, but there was a moment where she had gone to see Jerry and he had said, nope, everything's fine. And she was like, okay. And then by going to see Mike, when he just bald-faced lied to her, just so extremely, it seemed to have set a moment off where she went, wait a second, that was pretty easy for him. Maybe I, need to rethink how honest I am and how, what I've been, what I think of human nature.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that could be part of it, but I also think that there are just like a few other readings that like Marge dresses up for this meeting. She's like excited that he called her. She's flattered. She's not going with any intention of like anything untoward, but she wants to have this like, I think, this nice reunion with this nice guy that she used to like in high school. And she's happy that he called. And she gets dressed up. And again, the maternity clothes are just amazing in this film. Anyway, it gives her a few minutes, like a few different moments in this conversation with him where, first he goes to sit in right next to her and she's like, I want you back over there. I would be more comfortable with that. And she's so direct and so firm in her sort of like rebuffing. And I think that's like a fantastic moment. I really like that. And honestly, I need to remember things like this for myself because I was thinking not of like weird high school things, but I remember when I did like a little book tour stuff for the Buffy bio, there were at least a few different occasions where like strange older men like really got into my space and like one tried to kiss me and like it was just real. And I even at like, I guess I was 39 at the time, I still didn't have the language to like figure out how to be like, that's inappropriate, you need to step away. I still like wanted to sort of like make them feel that I hadn't rejected them, partly because like for myself, I just, didn't know if they were like extra dangerous, but like just to be able to articulate clearly your boundaries, I think is so good. So I really appreciate that scene and like how instructive it is. But that we then sort of like immediately flip into like Mike, this like big emotional breakdown about how he's a widower and he's so lonely. And we have this like wild scene. And then we find out like 3 minutes later that he made up the whole thing, that he was never with this woman, that he stalked her, gave this old high school friend of theirs like a really difficult time. I just like, I don't know. I don't know what the point of this character is necessarily because it's very strange other than to yet again show like a very twisted portrait of like I don't know, complicated masculinity and like how bad it can be. And then like
needing
adding
sympathy and pity and somehow from her was very like that he really wanted that feeling. And I'll never forget the name Linda Cooksey, but
well, I think there's something to this idea of like this Minnesota niceness that Fargo kind of made famous. Because like the one and only time that I've been through Minnesota, it's like, yeah, the people there were really, really nice. Like we were walking out of a parking lot of a restaurant and these two older couples like stopped us and they just were like wanted to know where we're going, what like how things were going, and told us about like what hotel we were staying at because their son-in-law ran the other hotel in town, and then they just like wished us luck on our journey. Like it was just like out of the blue and totally random, and it was just like, yeah, people are really nice in Minnesota. But anyway, I think like when I watched it this time, I could see this moment of how, like when you're meeting up with somebody and there's that sort of nice conversation back and forth and you're trying to make things go well and you're trying to just be casual and light about things, that you don't really suspect them or suspect they're lying or anything like that. And I think like when she finds out that he just basically blatantly lied to her face, it just kind of, it does serve at this like moment where she realizes that probably like, William H. Macy's character was just bald-faced lying to her face, and he was probably just like a scared, fearful little man as well. And it feels like that's what makes her think to go and talk to him again in the next scene.
Yeah, like
just to investigate what she thought she knew.
Well, and maybe that's like one of the purposes that the character serves, is that we're shown how Marge is able to take like real life moments and extrapolate from them things that drive her investigation. Like maybe that, like, to show us how smart Marge is that like she can handle herself in any situation. And she's like, kind of like classic Columbo or Angela Lansbury or whatever. She's always just finding the clues in the everyday. And also to understand that like that thing, which is like everything is nice and there's like this veneer of niceness. And maybe the niceness is actual for a lot of people. But there's also this like incredible layer of potential violence and this like darkness that niceness hides. Mm-hmm. And so like it can do all of those things at once. But yeah, I could like talk about Mike Yanagita forever.
It is an unusual scene in this movie. It really is. But in the sense of counting up all of the examples of the disturbing masculinity, it really is just another box to tick off, isn't it? Just that, not being able to sit with her and show himself to be, just a sad, lonely man. He had to make up a story to go with it.
Well, and the story hides another level of malevolence, which is what we find out after, is that he's a stalker, I mean, it's fascinating to me. It's like,
I do appreciate that he is one example of an Asian character who isn't speaking with an Asian accent of some kind in the movie. He has like a Midwestern accent, and I find
a Midwestern attitude as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you rarely see that in films.
Yeah. Can we talk about okay, we know there's all kinds of like male directors and writers, and we talk about like their muses over the years, but like we really never talk about Frances McDormand as a muse, even though that is what she is oftentimes, because like she's married to, I don't know, one of the Coens. I can't remember which one. But like she is technically a muse, but we never talk about her like that because she appears to have agency. And I think we often assume that a lot of muses are just things to like inspire male genius and provide the hard-ons and whatnot. But like, I think that there's different ways that we can think about muse culture.
Mm-hmm. She's married to Joel.
Thank you. Because like she's starred in a number of their films, and nine.
Films.
That's
but you also mentioned in our notes too that she's been in 3 Wes Anderson movies. So,
sure. I mean, Wes Anderson has a series of muses for sure as well.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. We always talk about like sort of like I think it's typically we talk about women who are considered like classically Hollywood beautiful as muses. And that's why we don't talk about Frances McDormand as a muse. So I think it's weird reverse sexism, even though muse culture is stupid in a lot of ways when it's specifically just sexism. I think it's just like, I don't know. I think it's very interesting what she brings to these films because, like, yes, Ethan and Joel wrote her character, but I really think it's what she brings to the role. Like, somebody else could have played that same character, and I don't think we'd be talking about Margie Gunderson 25 years later necessarily.
No.
Yeah, no, there's a definite affection and wanting to create a character that's worthy of her.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at her Wikipedia, she's won a Tony Award, 2 Primetime Emmys, 3 Academy Awards for acting, and a 4th Academy Award as a producer. So yeah,
that's pretty accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, she's like, if you look at all the movies she's been in, it's like she's just kind of somewhat quietly just had a successful career for like 25 years, continuously being in really good movies.
Yeah, just being awesome.
I mean, like, I'm trying to think of like what my favorite Frances McDormand performance is. I think it's probably this.
I think so for me.
But I did
definitely.
really love her in No Bedland.
Yeah.
She was in Almost Famous.
Oh, the mom. We got to remember her. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah.
I haven't seen 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri
I
yet.
did. She was very good in
not.
that. Yeah. She was very good in that.
Yeah. And yeah, like she's in The French Dispatch, which is coming up, and then
can't wait for that.
Yeah, and then it was just announced, I think even today, that the Coen brothers are doing Macbeth. So, and she's going to play Lady Macbeth.
That's right. That's
Wow.
right. I watched the trailer for that the other day, and
is it like a modern telling, or does it actually look like the time?
Yeah, it's based on the tragedy of the same name by William Shakespeare. First film directed by one of the Coens without the other's involvement.
Oh.
So Ethan is not involved. Joel is going it alone.
Oh, so it was actually supposed to it had its world premiere, or it's going to, on September 24th at the New York Film Festival.
With Denzel Washington.
I know,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's going to be so good.
I'm in.
I know, Macbeth's one of my favorites, so I'm very excited.
Whoa, boy, oh boy, that's dark.
Hello,
Jeez.
Lisa, have we met?
Yeah, I know. God. Wow, no, I know. Very in character. Very in character.
Yeah, the violence in this one, I guess like the first time, I mean, when the tracking, the shot of the Paul Bunyan statue and how hauntingly, I don't know, just like creepy, it is the way that they like shoot it. And then we get to the sort of the first act of violence, which is, well, not the first, but the first murder, which is shooting the police officer in the head, and then it sprays on Steve Buscemi. I like, it was so sudden, and I forgot that it happened, even though I'm sure I should have known it was coming. But like, it was just the look on Steve Buscemi's face. I did laugh, like, even though it's like shocking and awful and like kind of gross. But like the look on Steve Buscemi's face, I was just like, wow. But like, I just could not really. And then he's trying to hold the body, and he's like, he's just like incompetent at even like moving a dead body. Like, Steve Buscemi is doing a lot with his role as well.
Oh yeah, yes. And Jerry Lunder and William H. Macy. I mean, that is a character for the ages, right? I mean, you want to think of something really horrible, you think of Jerry Lundegaard. Just really laid it on.
Just such a weasel. Like, just like he is the definition of the word weasel in
But-
human form.
Yeah, and then what this movie also made me feel again, like that I hadn't in a long time, is that the Coen brothers are so good in creating just like terror, moments of terror, that like they're bad guys, like they're not like crazy, machine gun wielding bad guys.
Yeah,
but
the banality of true evil, like
but
of
it's
a
like, yeah,
incompetent
chilling.
and sad and just it's like a throwaway almost, like shooting that cop. That's a like
Yeah.
means nothing to any of them.
Well, and yeah, like the blonde-haired guy, I forget his name, but like it's just he just chilled me to the bone, like.
Yeah.
And yeah,
His
he
complete
gets the
disregard
most-
for anything.
He gets like such a his name is Ger. That's like
okay.
quite a it's quite okay, so also I just want to give a shout out to Frances McDormand and her line reading of, "Sir, you have no call to get snippy with me. I'm just doing my job here."
Yes.
As like Jerry gets more and more aggressive and awful and like ridiculous, I just
Well, yeah, and I also love it at the end where she's driving in the police cruiser and the guy's in the back, and she's like, basically like, you did all this. Look at what you did just for a little bit of money, and
it's such a beautiful day.
Yeah, now you're here, and it's such a beautiful day.
Yeah. 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 She just seems so disappointed, like a good mom is.
She is like the definition of like, I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah.
I think she is mad as well because, a lot of...
Well, it's horrifying. I don't think I guess they did know that Wade was dead, but the amount of carnage that started just for this one thing, the body count is huge.
I mean, just to muster up those lines, though, when you've got a guy you've arrested who just put a human being through a wood chipper and he's in the back of your car, like, how would you maintain any sense of like calmness or whatever?
But that's how competent she is in her job.
Yeah.
She's got him handcuffed. She shot him in the leg. She's got him in the back seat of the car. She's taken him in. Like, it's just all part of the day's work.
Like, I like that too. She just shot him in the leg. She didn't shoot to kill.
Yeah.
She shot to like stop him from running away.
Yeah. And I really do love that as sort of like a closing line of a film, is just like, there's more to life than a little money. Like, don't
you know that?
Yeah.
Don't you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I also really, and I love it in the TV series as well, how they kick off Fargo with, with the idea that this is based on a true story, and I can't remember what the wording is, but they phrase it so perfectly. We've changed some names to protect the innocent, we've changed some names to like protect or whatever, and we've left others the same to like basically like honor the dead. Like, that is such a perfect scene setting for like knowing that something weird is about to come. Like,
yes,
I'm trying to imagine what it would be like to watch this movie for the first time in 1996, because I think like within a few months, everyone knew that there was like a wood chipper murder in this movie. Like, that's like an iconic death scene, right? And they do it so well. Like, you only see an ankle, and just like how humiliating, just like a white ankle sock and a shoe. Yeah. Like, that's what's,
Or is anyone like wondering how that works out? Like, why is he wood chipping? Is he just that angry? Because you're going to somebody's going to find you and find that body. You're not like actually making the body disappear. The snow is completely red.
Yeah, I don't think he was thinking long term. I think he was just like, okay, I'll get rid of this body. It'll be hard to identify him. And because like it would be, I think, pretty hard to identify him after that. And then I'll get out of town. And
but it's also just that toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah.
Like, just
the overkill of just like,
like this like rage.
Yeah. Because I mean, he murdered poor Jean. Like, who knows?
Because she was whining, he said.
Well, and honestly, like, I don't know. I was was worried about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we didn't have to see more than we saw, but like, I just didn't like any of it. But I would, yeah, I feel like the Coens, like going back to Mike Yanagita, and also thinking about Shep Proudfoot and like the two like characters who are people of color in the show are just like these kind of like weird presentations of like stereotypes of people, like, you know, I know the Coen brothers, like, I think that I don't know for sure that they have improved in their depictions of like, you know, racialized characters over the years, but like, I hope that they have, because I don't think it holds up that well. Like, it just felt like the sort of indigenous character gets to be a former criminal who he's a mechanic who hooks him up with like killers and then beats one of the killers to a pulp. And then Mike Yanagita he's a lot of things. It's a more realized character at the very least. So I would just like the Coen brothers to, like, I don't know, be a bit more thoughtful and actually like use that the writer that Frances McDormand shouted out, the inclusion writer. Yeah. I would like the Coens to have sort of like a commitment to more inclusive and diverse filmmaking. That would be great.
For sure.
Anyway, but I mean, Fargo, it obviously pops, right?
Pops. I mean,
yeah.
But you know, anyone who is listening to the podcast and thinks they've seen it recently, watch it again, unless you literally just watched it a month ago. Because I know you feel like you've remembered it, but it's almost like just kind of getting back into that sort of feeling again with that music, those stark, windswept snowscapes and things. I think that it's a really atmospheric film as well. It really does take you to a whole other world, and you really feel a slow down and really, like, it's really otherworldly in its banality. It's a strange combination.
Yeah, I do think there's so much nuance to Frances McDormand's performance.
Yes,
that like it's worth watching for that alone.
Yeah, she's magic in this film.
Yeah,
she is. That's a great way to say it. She is magic. Yeah.
So we also like to leave our episodes on something we recommend. AG, do you want to go first?
Sure. I am watching this series called Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
I want to see it.
You have to see it. It's so funny.
Good.
It's created by Steve Martin and John Hoffman and stars Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez, who is excellent in the show. And it's about, they all live in the same building, and they're all fans of this true crime podcast. And it's really satirizes podcasters and podcast culture and podcast listeners. Which is like, makes it even funnier. But they kind of all bond about being like fans of this podcast. And then there's a murder in their building, and they decide to start their own podcast to try and solve the murder. But it's so funny because like the title is like, you know how we have focus statements like pop this is three women talking about pop culture. Like their podcast is just like, we're only talking about murders that happen in our building. That's how they're different than other true crime podcasts.
Honestly, great premise. I love that.
But it's so funny, and it's set in the Upper West Side of New York, so you get to see this building with all these incredible New York apartments in it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far.
That's awesome.
Excellent. I definitely want to see that.
It's on Disney Plus in Canada.
Yeah. Lisa, what about you?
I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest a candy. Because many of the things I've been watching are connected to our podcast, things we're going to be doing. So Werther's has a pumpkin spice. And as you know, I
just want it said right now, no one can make fun of me for recommending food
trailer?
or trailers anymore. I just want it put out there right now.
I don't know. I feel like I still rank candy above trailer.
Yeah, well, you did a snow cone too. So
you did a snow cone. We know where your bias lays, AG. Okay. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Tell me about your Werther's.
The Werther's pumpkin spice. I'm a big fan of the pumpkin spice every year. I like pumpkins. I like eating pumpkins. I like them whether in their pie or a soup. And I like a pumpkin spice latte. And so now if I really just need a quick burst, I got a Werther's with the pumpkin spice in it. And just say, hey, you know what? It's fall. Get into your pumpkin spice. Don't be embarrassed about it. Enjoy it. That's all I want to say.
Nice. You know what? I'm actually going to go out and get those.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they existed.
Yeah. I don't know how long they've been out there, but I bought a bag of them the other day.
I just want it known that Lisa, truly such an iconic influencer. AG is going to quit Twitter and go buy pumpkin spice Werther's.
Totally.
Incredible. Great work.
I have so much power. I'll have to wield it wisely.
Yeah, you got to be responsible. I am going to recommend Shad. His new album is coming out October 1st. It's called Tao or Dao. I'm so sorry. I wish I knew, because I have a friend whose like name is Tao, and but I've heard sometimes that it's pronounced Dao. Tao.
That's Dao, as far as I know.
Cool. Well, yeah. I should tell my friend she says her name wrong. Anyway, no. It's...
Well, maybe as a name it's completely different, but the religion, isn't it? The Tao of...
Tao, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, Shad's new record is called Tao. It's out October 1st. The first single is called Work, featuring Scratch Bastard. And it's so good, and it's so smart, and... he's talking about how just a criticism of hustle culture is what that first single is about.
Understood.
Yeah, just opting out of the nonstop busyness of life.
The rat race, my friends.
Well, and just how late stage capitalism is definitely trying to kill us all. So. Mm-hmm. And especially, I love it when Shad talks economics. That's one of his great interests, and his the way that he fuses it with pop culture makes it really accessible to me personally. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, the new Shad coming October 1st.
Nice.
Yay.
Excellent. We've got you covered here.
We really do.
Music, candies, TV shows, we've got it all.
We've got it all. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We have appreciated your time and attention. And you know what? We also really appreciate your 5-star reviews. Thank you so much. You can rate and review us 5 stars if you like.
You can. And thanks to Andrea Gin for producing and co-hosting with us. And thank everyone for listening and enjoying. And I'll see what I can influence for you next week. I'm very excited.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Can't wait. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.